Hello guys, I'm Mitchell Harsh, and I will be talking to you about the prevention of the onset of CTE in football players. I will start off by defining CTE. CTE is a degenerative disease of the brain. It develops from repeated brain trauma and collisions to the brain throughout the lifetime of an athlete. It breaks down the tissue of the brain and builds up an excess of protein. The side effects of CTE are emotional highs and lows, loss of impulse control, depression, memory loss, and the early onset of dementia. And another more extreme side effect is actually suicide. One of the more famous cases of this is the case of former NFL athlete Junior Seau. He took his life in 2012, and an autopsy later showed that he had an advanced case of CTE. And at the bottom right, there's two pictures. The brain on the left is a normal brain, and the one on the left has CTE. And the one on the left, it has a very full coloration. It's got a nice full shape to it. There's no real gaps between the lobes. As compared to the brain on the right, it's discolored. It's got like a tan, brownish color to it. You can actually see the built-up protein on the brain, and the gaps between the lobes, and just the general misshapen. CTEs can develop without ever experiencing an injury that would be diagnosed as a concussion. Concussion is when there's a blow to the body or brain that causes the head to move violently, and the brain will move within the skull, causing damaged cells. It could lead to a chemical imbalance as well, and a concussion will be diagnosed if there's a change of function in the brain, be it pupils can stop dilating, or a patient could lose their sense of taste or smell temporarily. While concussions do lead to CTE, what's more directly linked to CTE is a lifetime of repeated blows to the brain, even if they're not as severe. So ideally, if we would make collisions to the brain or to the head as rare as possible, then CTE as a result should become less prevalent. And up top here, there's a control brain, so that would be a brain that hasn't experienced the repeated blows. And there's a slew of NFL brains here where you can very clearly see the deterioration of the brain. So the solution to this issue, athletes below varsity level should not have full contact practices. Professional and collegiate athletes do not have full contact practices, so it doesn't make sense for a varsity athlete to be experiencing these blows to the brain that are just building up their chances of developing CTE as an adult. In practice, they should be focusing on proper tackling without using the head. I have a clip below of very poor tackling that led both athletes to have spinal and brain injuries. If we can prevent children from experiencing any type of brain trauma, that would be ideal, mainly because the trauma experienced in children is more severe and has more severe side effects than brain trauma suffered from adults. So why is this? Children have weaker, less developed neck muscles, and as a result, their head is less stable in the body. So any collision will cause their head to move around more violently than that of an adult. So not only will the head move more violently, the brain has more room to move within the skull, because the brain is not as developed, and the skull is bigger than it needs to be. So collisions with the skull will become more severe. And right now, helmets are players' main defense against brain injuries. Well, helmets' main job is to prevent the fracture of the skull, which they do a very good job of doing. But in order for a helmet to actually prevent concussions, it would have to stabilize the neck or stabilize the brain within the skull, which is not realistic. So to wrap it all up, to prevent CTE from developing, do away with contact practices. I know most youth programs have contact practices 4 days a week, and one game being on the 5th day of the week. So if we're cutting out 4 days of repeated blows to the brain every week, then the chance of CTE drops significantly. Also, teaching safe tackling in practice would be a great way to prevent CTE, so athletes can go out and perform without harming themselves or others.